We joined an aid convoy to get in here this morning, or it actually took about 24 hours to get here. It was a very long and grueling trip, but we joined at the end an aid convoy coming through the town of Donggala. It's a small city really, about 300,000 people just further up the coast, hit hard by that tsunami, took the full brunt of the wave, also shaken up by the quake because it was closer to the epicenter. And then we drove down into Palu itself, along that bay, which funneled that water, the tidal waves, the tsunamis, and that amplified the force of it. And the people here have really suffered because they've really not received anything until about now. It is apparently coming in, but there are no international agencies here at all. The Indonesian government has opened up the possibility of aid from abroad, and certainly China, the United States, the European Union, Australia have all offered help, but it's yet to be seen on the ground.
And you've had a lot of experience of covering these kind of disasters. How poor are conditions there now?
It's a very hard one to gauge, because the first impression you get is of a city that, 90% of the buildings are still standing. And then you see those two neighborhoods that you've just mentioned, that one of them we visited, and you'll see in my report in a moment, absolutely flattened. And I have never seen anything like that. You're right, I have covered lots of earthquakes. I, in fact, covered the tsunami in Aceh in 2004. They're all very different. It's very hard to compare these things. This is quite a complex emergency, but what I can tell you is that the people in Palu and neighboring towns and villages right the way down through the Palu Valley do not have food. They do not have running water and safe drinking water. They do not have power and electricity. And everybody is really beginning to suffer now. And that is why there is pressure on these people, and that's why they're looting. It's why they're going into these shops and supermarkets. And do you call it looting? Well, maybe not, because the need is so great. You'll see from my report what our journey consisted of today and just how serious this is. Before dawn, we joined an aid convoy as it sped towards the disaster zone. With no fresh water, no food, no power, and with medical supplies running low, those who'd suffered the quake, the tsunamis and the constant aftershocks were now desperate. We'd heard the Red Cross describe the situation as nightmarish. Along the coast road down the bay, one village after another had been wiped off the map by the monstrous succession of waves as they smashed without warning into homes, splintering them instantly, sweeping away masonry, cars, even trucks, and of course people. Balaroa's a residential district of Palu, or it was. In just 1 minute, as the earthquake struck, a swathe of Balaroa was violently drowned in heaving liquid sludge. This preceded the tsunami by half an hour. At least 800 homes here were swallowed up by the earth. 800 families. When it was over, the ground level had dramatically dropped. The east end of Jalan Manggis, Mangosteen Street, was gone, its residents buried alive under many meters of mud. Only a fraction of an unknown but large number of the dead have been dug out. This Canadian, who's lived here for 20 years, belongs to a Muslim charity that's burying the unclaimed dead.
I mean, this whole area is devastated, right from, at least 1 kilometer. Yeah. The earth was just rolling over, and the houses rolled on top of each other. My wife's aunt's house, which is on this road, Jalan Manggis, supposedly is buried under 2 other houses. And they searched for 2 days for their bodies, and they got down to about 20 meters, and they gave up last night.
From a mosque, the muezzin's melancholic recitations drift across a post-apocalyptic urban landscape. This mosque collapsed on scores of children during Friday evening Quran lessons, and they call this an act of God. The time for rescue has now passed. The search is still on, but only for the dead, and there are many, many of them here. Last night they could still hear voices under this rubble, but now no longer. The district of Balaroa, in which all the streets were named after fruit trees, is now a mass grave. Downtown, in what was until 4 days ago the Roa Roa Hotel, they've dug 7 guests out alive and 5 dead. 21 still unaccounted for, and, well, realistically, the window for rescue has probably closed. They keep going though because a voice was heard here last night. Army trucks again brought dead victims to a mass grave today, most unidentified. There are parts of the city where you get pungent wafts of the sweet, cloying stench of decay. It makes you gag. Round the corner from the Hotel of Death, we stumbled across a story of life. We're in a triage unit set up on day 1. Patients being treated for concussion, fractured limbs and lacerations. Among them, 5-year-old Akbar. He's in shock, having been brought here by a stranger who found him wandering the streets. By sheer happenstance, Wartin, his mum, was being treated for a head injury here too. She'd been at her food stall on the beach with her children when the tsunami swept them all away. She'd given Akbar up for dead.
He's in this condition because of this disaster. He couldn't find his mom and dad until today, when he was finally reunited with his mother. He's still terribly upset about what happened, but he's happy to see his mom.
His dad, Lukman, who hadn't been at the stall that fateful day, first found his wife, then 2 other children in a rescue centre. Now Akbar had miraculously turned up too. Life and love among the Palu ruins.